Well, good morning. I'm going to continue this week talking about the 16 verses of the Anapanasati Sutta. And I'm going to, I'm not sure where I'm going to begin. That's the honest truth. um, so central to this practice, so absolutely central to this practice is knowing impermanence, knowing the nature of what it is that keeps changing. And the most important aspect is understanding that the nature of self is what keeps changing. The perception of what's occurring externally and what's occurring internally keeps changing. And, the core experience that we have is of sort of summed up in the sentence, I keep changing, as though the I was separate from the change, as though there was a me that observes the change and says, oh, look, everything in the universe keeps changing. But there is like a constancy, a permanence to some me. And then I can then generate story after story after story after story, proving it. I'm just like I was when I was 6. Is a good one. A great story explaining. And the reason I'm like this right now, I can see all the things that happened to me to produce the me now. There's a couple of problems there. First of all, in fact, it's not actually true that there is a constancy of me. Me keeps changing. The very aspect of experience, which maybe for the moment I'll call the observer, the one who is observing impermanence, is impermanent. Because what is observing? It's the action of our perceptual system. It's the perception of this, the perception of that, seeing fog, seeing movement, seeing stillness, seeing windows and doors and your faces on the screen. Every moment that I look at the screen is a different moment. The beginning of the Anapanasati Sutta starts with that being what is being taught. The older monks are teaching the newer monks how to discern successive distinctions, meaning impermanence. How to notice that at one moment the thought is like this, and another moment the attention is on hearing. Another moment the attention is on sight, and then it's on thought with a new thought. It keeps changing. And it isn't just what we observe that's changing, the observer is changing as well. The relationship that forms between the observer and the observed is inconstant. It keeps changing. It's different all the time. The cause of suffering, according to one of the early Zen ancestors, is preferences. Preferences arise out of a sense of self. In the absence of a sense of self, there's no need for preferences. All preferences begin with the word I. I prefer. I prefer peace. I love peace. I hate war. I love kindness. I hate cruelty. I love beautiful fog. I hate, ugly mud. I like pretty mud. I'm an endless spinner of preferences. In the absence of I, preferences soften. They become different. Everything that arises in experience is noted, is seen for what it is distinguished and discerned. And as each experience is distinguished and discerned, choosing arises. There is a need to choose how to respond, what to do next. And that choosing is almost exclusively guided by preferences. In the absence of preferences, what would be chosen? So the Buddha lays out an answer to that question. The Buddha says, in the absence of preferences, discern, is this experience wholesome or unwholesome? If it's wholesome, if it leads to a sense of connectedness, a clarity around what actions are kind and harmless and what actions are unkind and harmful, a clarity of seeing the nature of what our stories bring up to us, and a freedom that allows us, free of preferences, a freedom that allows us to see things as they actually are. Imagine being able to notice that you're reacting to something going on out of an old habit pattern, and being able to say, oh, of course. And then instead of smashing the habit pattern or merging with the habit pattern, there is a third way, the middle way, which is greeting the habit pattern, greeting it with kindness and care and affection, and saying, oh, hello, my old friend. And then really distinguishing the various aspects of that habit pattern as it arises, perhaps noticing the fertile field from which it arises, and seeing how different ways of connecting to that habit pattern create different outcomes. The outcome of merging with that habit pattern produces familiarity. The familiarity gives support to a sense of self. Ah, this is clearly who I am. I'm doing this again. And the sense of self being supported is firmer. And we mistake that firmness as something positive rather than stuck in quicksand, which is a little more accurate description. Free of preferences, we watch the arising of this habit pattern. We say hello, we greet it, and we say, you are not me. You are not I. You are not mine. There is a relationship being born, a relationship between observer and observed. Something is observing the habit pattern. The habit pattern is unfolding. And in that moment, we get to choose wholesome or not wholesome. In that moment, we get to rest. Rest in the knowing of the details of the way that this habit pattern shows up, the way it shows up in the body, in the heart, in the mind. And we say, ah, and that's it. Nothing more. If we're skillful in our development of mindfulness, we watch the habit pattern as it keeps blossoming, as it keeps changing, as it affects the body, the heart, and the mind. We remain steady in our mindfulness, calm, not going into reactivity, but watching it carefully. It is this practice of mindfulness, of watching carefully, that lets us notice change is always occurring. And when we notice change is always occurring, our grasping softens. And as our grasping softens, our sense of self gets shaky, because the habit pattern was supporting a sense of self, a sense of permanence. And as the sense of permanence gets softer, less firm, we may get a bit frightened. What would I be without a sense of self? How will I get things done? How will I take care of what needs to be taken care of? It's at that moment that the Buddha says the cycle can change through faith. In that moment, when the fear comes up, the fear of losing a sense of self, a sense of permanence, of constancy, a fear of merging into the flow of all experience, of all consciousness, merging into this flow and becoming something different every moment. And we get frightened. And so we look for a familiar habit pattern to merge with, to enmesh with, to give our sense of self some stability, some firmness. That's what the Buddha called oops. Yeah, not such a good idea. But that's what we do. That's what all living beings do. This is the cause of suffering. The opposite of preferences is equanimity. Equanimity is seeing each thing as it arises as unique, as really exciting, actually, as, the work of being a living being is to see clearly the arising of each experience, to distinguish it from other experiences, to discern its nature through mindfulness, and then to choose what to do, and to choose that which is kind and that which is harmless, to allow a sense of connectedness to be present rather than a sense of separateness. In the Anapanasati Sutta, at least in the translation that I've been using in the third section, it talks about the mind. It says that you need to train yourself. You need to train yourself. I've mentioned before, I counted, it says you train yourself 28 times in these 16 lines, in these 16 verses. 28 times you train yourself. What does you train yourself mean? In our culture, training yourself is a measurement tool, right? It's measured. I'm a beginner. I'm developing more. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm developing more. I'm a little more advanced than the middle. I'm developing more. I'm getting excited. Now I'm going to become a something important. That measurement really is supporting the nature of self again. Because who is it that's advancing? Who is it who's developing? Me. I have a preference. I have a very strong preference to develop in this practice. every moment that I experience a sense of development, oh, I get enmeshed and it supports my sense of self. As the Buddha said, oops, that wasn't what I was talking about. The Buddha said, you trained yourself 28 times, and what needs to be felt and known is that every moment where you are is where you are. This is the place, this is the time, this is the experience of this very moment, of this period of your life, this period of your practice, of your development. You're right here. That's all that's being asked in this practice, is to be right here, right now. Not in some imaginary sense, but just an easeful, relaxed truth. Right. Being here, being now, is actually what's occurring. You train yourself to know what's occurring here and now. Not to get somewhere, not to get out of something or get into something, but just to be here, in this moment, mindful of what's occurring. Knowing change. So this anapanasati practice is the practice of focusing on knowing the moment of breathing in, knowing the moment of breathing out, being able to distinguish breathing in from breathing out, and distinguish breathing out from breathing in. And discerning the nature of an in-breath, discerning the nature of an out-breath, developing interest and curiosity through mindfulness, through paying attention to what the experience of an in-breath is, paying attention to what the experience of an out-breath is. This we do through every step of the verses of this practice. In the third group of verses, the focus is on the mind. So you train yourself. You are here now, knowing breathing in, knowing breathing out, sensitive to the state of the mind, sensitive to the mind. Is it a mind filled with desire, or is it a mind absent desire? Is it a mind filled with aversion, or is it a mind absent of aversion? Is the mind focused, or is the mind scattered? Is the mind sort of saturated in the mundane world? Or is it a mind that's, a bit transcendent? What is the state of the mind? Sensitive to the state of the mind, breathing in, breathing out. And then it says, breathing in, satisfying the mind. Breathing out, satisfying the mind. This is a verse about contentment, about being with what is actually present in this very moment. Equanimity is aroused. Greeting each thing honorably. Every sound, every sight, every thought, every taste, every smell, every sensation in the body, every feeling in the heart, every thought in the mind. Being satisfied as each arises in experience, not needing it to be different, not wishing for it to go away and not bother me anymore, not wishing for it to stay and take care of me. Just distinguishing it, what it is, and discerning its nature. Satisfied, joyful even, that life is like this, presenting an endless series of experience for our delight. And then it says, I will breathe in steadying the mind, and breathe out steadying the mind. And what is this steadying? Well, if an endless series of experiences showing up one after the other, it can create an unsteadiness. And that unsteadiness could send us to attachment with a particular experience as a way of slowing down change. But it's not really slowing down change. All you're doing is withdrawing your attention from the nature of what is, the constancy of change. You're withdrawing your attention and bringing your attention into a bubble, a little world created by your mind. Something to satisfy the desire for a constancy, a stability of self. So we steady ourselves. We steady the mind. We steady its attention on the unfolding of impermanence, on the arising and passing away of one experience after another, rather than clinging and grasping to any particular experience. And then finally, breathing in, releasing the mind, and breathing out, releasing the mind. And what is this releasing? It's releasing attachment, releasing grasping, releasing clinging, allowing whatever experience arises to just unfold naturally without making it part of me, without making me part of the experience. Just resting in the unfolding of life itself. This is really our practice. When the bell rings and you close your eyes, what you're seeing is the flow of life. The very nature of existence is right there, available to your senses, available to the mind. And our practice is to use the breathing in and the breathing out to have a sense of steadiness so that we don't need to move to grasping of self-nature in order to have a sense of some place to hold on to. The Buddha is offering us the breath, the constancy of breathing in and breathing out as a form of steadiness, training ourselves to be steady in the inconstant nature of everything, as we're mindful of the inconstant nature of breath, even as it constantly occurs. What a joy to be alive. So let's practice this. Let's practice resting in life, in seeing life unfold in front of our senses, with our senses, without attachment, without preference. Mindfully we breathe in, mindfully we breathe out. Mindfully we breathe in, mindfully we breathe out. Mindfully we breathe in, mindfully we breathe out.